The call, initiated by the US, focused on Ukraine conflict resolution prospects ahead of Trump's meeting with Ukrainian President. Kremlin aide Yuri Ashikov said both the leaders agreed a temporary ceasefire would prolong the war, urging Ukraine to make responsible decisions. The Russian president accepted Trump's proposal for working groups on mediation. They plan another call post the meeting now. So this call particularly was held before the meeting and another is on the track. Putin further noted that Russian advances and no interest in waiting for withdrawals. And to give you a rounded perspective on this, I am now joined by Mr. Ravi Joshi, who is the visiting fellow of Observer Research Foundation, also known as ORF. Thank you, sir. Good afternoon for joining us here on Daily India News Hour, and especially on this very important discussion. Now, while Donald Trump in his style calls this meeting terrific, thorny issues, they still remain unresolved. And the second very important aspect is of the Donbas region, which is again very contentious. How do you see this meeting making a progressive move with two important issues still on the radar?
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, then Zelensky says, how do you guarantee my security against Russian invasion in future? So are you going to give a peacekeeping troops here? Is Europe going to keep peacekeeping troops in Ukraine to prevent Russian further marches? And Putin says that's the red line. He does not want any foreign troops in the Ukrainian territory. Now, Russia considers that as an absolutely hostile act by any country. Suppose there are German troops or French troops, he will consider that as a hostile act and he will retaliate against that country. That's what Putin has been saying so far. So now, if peacekeeping troops will not be there, how do you ensure the security of Europe? So this is the question.
That's right.
And there is still a lot of gray area in that. Okay, and the third point is now reconstruction of Ukraine. Where will the funds come from? Okay, so far Europe was considering one plan to completely unfreeze the Russian funds which were there in the European bank and give it to Zelensky or Ukraine to reconstruct the country. But that was considered as a completely as a theft of Russian property by President Putin, and he has strongly retaliated against that. And he said, I will take not only legal measures, maybe we will take punitive measures against the European banks. So now, finally, what Europe agreed in just about 1 day or 2 days ago is that they have not seized the Russian fund, but they have raised their own loan of about $105 million for the reconstruction of Ukraine against the collateral guarantee of European Union budget, which is very different from what they had planned earlier. And this agreement came after a 16-hour-long meeting within the European country.
Right.
Okay, and several Eastern European countries, which are very close to the Russian border, are extremely scared to get into a situation where the Russian frozen funds will be handed over to Ukraine. They know that the consequences for Hungary, Poland, for Czech Republic, Slovak Republic will be very severe. So they were against it, and they were totally opposed to the EU plan of handing over Russian money to Ukraine. So now some kind of a compromise has been arrived at. So these are the major contentious issues which still remain and which are a work in progress.
Very rightly pointed out, Mr. Joshi, and considering all these contentious issues, the peace plan still needs to be discussed with Putin in order to reach an agreement for a common consensus. According to you, can you see the 2026 year bringing in some light of hope in this regard, with Trump already saying that the upcoming weeks are going to be crucial?
Yes, certainly, sir. I now foresee a very optimistic picture on the Russia-Ukraine front because whatever Trump is doing is constantly carrying Putin along with him. And if you saw the recent meetings, he had a 2-hour meeting before a phone call with Putin before he met Zelensky, and he had a 1-hour call with Putin after meeting Zelensky. So he's carrying both the leaders along with him, and I'm very hopeful that the peace deal will be achieved very soon, maybe by mid-January or so. And one more point I want to mention here is that the meetings were preceded by Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner with the Ukrainian delegation. And Jared Kushner, when he comes into the picture, there is some serious business interests are involved, either for the Trump family or for some other big corporates in America. And they are looking at opening up the Russian economy, lifting the sanctions against Russia as soon as possible, and starting to do business with Russia. And when the corporate interests are involved, this will definitely get solved very soon.
Which means that we can expect a business deal as well on the sidelines of this peace deal, isn't it?
Well, absolutely, absolutely. And in fact, when Jared Kushner is involved, you can expect only business deals, nothing else.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Now, another very crucial point is the biggest nuclear power plant, which you also just mentioned. And under the peace plan, the United States, Russia and Ukraine say that they may run it and profit from it jointly, but not yet agreed by both the parties, and especially Zelensky in this case, because he is always apprehensive about the commercial investments and involvements. Now, considering the need of energy right now for Russia and Ukraine and the continuous damage being reported to all these power plants, how much of a loss it may amount to if the delay is extended to another year?
But it will be serious. It will be very serious. If the delay is extended to another year, it will be very serious loss to the nuclear plant as well as to the Ukrainian economy. Ukrainian economy is already bleeding, and it is desperately in need of funding for starting to recover and reconstruct its economy. And any further delay will be suicidal for Ukraine, and Zelensky realizes this. Though the European leaders earlier were asking him to stay strong against the President Trump pressures, now he has understood that there is very little that the European leaders can do, and the main person who will actually deliver any kind of agreement is Trump, and he has now completely fallen in line with whatever Trump is saying. And I see a very serious positive move within the next 15 days.
And also, what could be the possible roadblocks? Because when we are talking about hope, when we are talking about so many progressive steps that both the parties have taken, what could be the possible roadblocks?
The roadblocks are, basically territory. Ukraine for a long time insisted upon its territorial integrity to be maintained. That now he has given up. President Zelensky now realizes that Donbas region has gone out of Ukraine's hands, and he cannot hope to recover that from Russia. Okay, that is now settled in. Now he is only trying to hold on to the territory which Ukraine has got at the moment. That is a large part of Kharkiv and probably Zaporizhzhia and the nuclear plant and the gas infrastructure in that region. Okay. Whereas Russia is pushing its troops every day into as much territory as possible. And, territory is always a major roadblock in any kind of a negotiated settlement of a war.
That's right.
And that will remain key, absolutely.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Ravi Joshi, for joining us and bringing us a rounded perspective to the fruitful talks between US President Donald Trump and Volodymyr Zelensky.